Hello, my name is Andrew Bostian, and I'm the Director of Bloom Shapiro's Business Valuation Services. And today I'm joined by Dave Chenevert, the Executive Director of Rhode Island Manufacturers Association and founder of Swiss Line Precision Manufacturing. Dave, thank you for joining us today.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. And today we're going to be talking about succession planning, in particular, your successful transition as founder of your company and then subsequent sale of it.
Yep.
And here's the thing about succession planning. It's not easy, right?
No, it's a lot involved.
It's a lot involved. There's a lot of decisions to make, meticulous details to go through, a pile of paperwork, I'm sure. And there's a roadmap that could probably guide you through the process, but no two companies are the same. So you have to kind of find your way and plan ahead for that successful
Planning ahead is
transition.
very important to the success of it.
And probably one of the hardest things is, what is the owner, the founder, going to do after they sell a business and turn the keys over to somebody else, so to speak?
Correct.
So if we could start, maybe if you could give us a little bit of background on Swiss Line Precision Manufacturing, when you started it, how long you were at the helm, and how it grew throughout the years.
Well, it started in 1985. I bought into a company called Swiss Line Products, and that gentleman had all manual machines. It was him, his wife, and 2 employees. So the idea was, at that time, I was 33 and he was 58, and the intent was that, I said, we'll grow the business, and they'll give you some more equity to get out and have more than you have now, and then I'll take it over. Well, it started out, we bought our first piece of equipment in 1985, CNC Swiss, and I ran it, I set it up and all that stuff. And come December, it's just a true story, we built the checkbook up. He was doing about $190,000 a year in sales. And we built the checkbook up, and on my desk around Christmas time was 2 checks for $20,000 each. And I took the 2 checks and ripped them in half. And I says, we're building something. I said, I'm not taking this money out of the checkbook. We need to go out and buy more machinery. Mm-hmm. Well, he didn't like that, and so we had a parting of the ways. And I took the company, I moved it to Woonsocket, Rhode Island, the old Taft Pierce building. And from there, I just kept growing it and growing it and growing it until when I retired, we had 70 CNC machines and employed 65 people.
And your son was involved in the company?
My son, no. He got out of college, and I hooked him up with the company that we purchased all our machinery from, Rem Sales in Granby, Connecticut. And he worked for them for about 8 years. And he came on board at a great time. It was called the 2008 Recession.
Okay.
So it was a wonderful period in my life.
So how about getting through a recession? What are the things that keep you awake at night during
Everything.
that time period?
It was a very, if anyone who's gone through it and has survived, it was a very emotional situation.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of friends of mine lost their companies. They were not in a position to ride that storm. We were. I positioned a company to handle that. We had 2 corporations. We had Swiss Line Products and Swiss Line Precision Manufacturing. Products owned the building and the machinery, and was a S Corp, and the other operation was a C Corp.
Okay.
So it worked out. We could control our rent, we could control our destiny, and we managed to get through it. But it was a difficult period in my life.
Now, if we could talk about succession planning, now, at Bloom Shapiro, we encourage our clients to start the process early. And I can imagine in your seat, when you're running a company, it's hard to think about succession planning when you're running a company and you have 65 employees and you have to run the day-to-day. How early did you start your succession planning?
I think it was part of my overall picture of keeping the company profitable. Over the years, I would say the last 10 years, I probably had over 8 to 10 different companies or equity firms trying to say, hey, won't you sell out? And I turned most of them down until this one came along. My son and I sat, we talked about it, and I'll give him credit. He realized what it took to run the company, and he felt with his 2 young kids at the time where I think we were 3 and 5. And this was going to be my retirement, selling the company or him taking it over and paying me back. He just didn't want that on his shoulders. He didn't feel it was fair to me. And if something happened where another 2008 recession came along, he didn't want to pick up that phone and say, Dad, I can't afford to pay you this month. Because I've worked, he says, you worked too hard to get where you are today. And it's a great offer. They wouldn't buy the company, to be honest with you, unless he stayed on as president.
Oh, okay.
So the transition from going from me owning it and just turning over to someone I didn't know, it didn't really exist. It was a nice transition where my son was the one that I was tutoring for that last year.
Yeah. Well, that's such a great story to build that company from 1985 on to 2016, is
16.
that correct? To have multiple avenues of one, something you can point to and be proud of and look back on, having your son in the business, and knowing that he's set up with a top company to come in and really...
Best part about it, it's an ESOP. And so my employees, my ex-employees, are all now sharing in the wealth of the company, and they're doing excellently. My son's done a great job.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Good to hear. Yeah, it's good to have the ownership with the employees there, too.
It still was not easy to turn that over either.
Yeah. How about, I mentioned paperwork before, and I can list some of the things that we see when we're helping people with succession planning. And this is not to really scare anyone off with succession planning. It's more, these are the things to think about. So let's think 3 years financial statements with profit and loss statements, balance sheet, cash flow. What are your leases, sales contracts, legal documents, payroll summaries? What am I missing in that list?
Well, there's individual contracts that you have, like, it's going to sound stupid, but say the extinguisher, fire extinguisher guys, or the contracts you may have on your water system. All that stuff gets reviewed by the company that's buying you up because they want to know what they're inheriting as far as those particular contracts. So if you have anything relative to machines and stuff of that nature, they're going to pay that off because they don't want to inherit any debt. So it was quite in depth. It was more than I anticipated, to be honest with you.
So how did you manage that process? And I guess using hindsight, what could you maybe have done differently, and were you as prepared as you?
I think we were. I think from a financial viewpoint, we were in pretty good shape. I had a great CPA who oversaw a lot of the stuff. And one of the things I do as the executive director for Rhode is we try to keep our memberships in the manufacturers out of the potholes that this fall into. And one of the things we did, we had a workshop, and one of those was telling them you need to have a good attorney, you need to have a good CPA firm, and you need to make sure you have guidance from your bank. So I had that. I had long-term relationships with my CPA firm. I had long-term relationships with the bank and also the attorney. So it worked. I had those tools in place, call them, and they assisted me a lot.
Yeah. So was there one particular advisor that was quarterbacking that all? Was it a CPA?
Yeah.
Yeah. And how about like maybe a financial advisor? I know that they're often involved in the.
It was one individual predominantly that I worked with for close to 25 years owning the company, and I trusted him, and he was very, very good. It was solid.
And the attorneys involved, was there a corporate attorney?
We had a corporate attorney.
Yep.
His firm also did the estate type planning as well. It was all encompassing. But you got to have those tools in place. And if you don't have that, and if you don't have the confidence in the people you're dealing with, that also hurts you as well. So I would advise anybody who's going to go through this that you got to have those 3 items in place if you think you're going to be successful in doing a transition to a succession.
Yeah. So for our clients, when I get involved in valuations, the common scenarios might be they have an offer on the table and they want to vet that offer. So there's a number in place, but they've never had a valuation done, so they want to get an idea of value there. Or others are maybe planning a few years in advance. They've taken our advice to do that succession planning. So if they know their value today, and they have a set amount that they might want to retire on in a few years, they can at least aspire to a certain goal. So that's another situation. And another one is they just want to go to market right away. Yeah. And they want to get going. They woke up one morning and they say, 6 months from now, I want to be done, or 12 months from now. When you were approached, was a value given to you, or did you have a valuation?
They wanted to do one of the key words that a lot of manufacturers, because I always say this to everyone, that manufacturers usually have their heads in the sand because they're so focused on running their business, they're not thinking of all the other things. But one of the key words is called EBITDA. Mm-hmm. And right. A lot of manufacturers, owners, small companies of my size or whatever, don't think of that word. And that is a critical piece of what's going to go into your value of your company. Mm-hmm. So when we approached this, we did the EBITDA, and the company that wanted to buy me out was willing to do a 4-to-1 purchase to the EBITDA. And so we did a rough calculation. I said, I think I could live with that. Right. So it worked out very well as far as I was concerned.
Okay. Yeah, that's the classic metric, 4 times EBITDA, right?
Exactly. And the other aspect that was good for me is I owned the building, but they didn't want to buy the building, so they paid me rent.
Oh, okay.
And I keep telling my son, don't be late. So
yeah, you're there. You know where he lives, right?
I know, yeah. If he wants me babysitting my grandson, he better be sure he's on time.
So how about the process from time of offer to time of sale? I know sometimes maybe 6 months to a year it could take.
I would say the most difficult part of doing this, if it was myself and the lead person for the ESOP company that was going to buy us, we could have had it done probably in 2 or 3 days. Mm-hmm. Then the lawyers get involved. And that was painstaking. That was horrible. It was so bad that I walked in, they were there because we're getting ready for this move and transition. He was in my office, and I had a small conference table about this size, and he was sitting there, and I'm at my desk. And I walked in that morning, I dropped my stuff on this table, and I said in point blank, I'm going to tell you right now, either you get this attorney to shut his mouth, or I'm walking away from this, because I don't need to sell. I am quite content what I'm doing. I'm still healthy. I'm fine, but I am not putting up with this any longer. I've had enough of this guy. Right. Well, he was like shocked that I'd walk away from the deal. And I'm kind of French and thick-headed, and I don't really care. I was not in a position where I had to sell. And I think that's a very important point to a company. Get yourself in a position where you don't have to sell. Be in a position where you can sort of like dictate a little bit to what you want to achieve out of that sale. And some people don't do that. They wait until the very end. Now I got to sell because of health or whatever. I wasn't in that spot.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. I think that was kind of what I was trying to say was when you plan ahead and get that idea a few years in advance. And I look at athletes, for instance, Mookie Betts, for instance, for the Red Sox, he knows in his mind what his value is. And he's got his number in his mind. I'm sure the Red Sox have their number in mind. And I'm sure you had what you had in mind. And more, maybe it wasn't so much a number, but also the process, too. Let's say that deal falls through. Let's say it's still going to be difficult. We're still going to make life difficult for you. Did you have a plan B in place?
The plan B in place was that I was going to stay on, continue to run the operation. I put my son as president. My plant manager became VP, and we were just going to keep plugging away. Mm-hmm. I would have stayed on and kept working, doing the thing that I have done for the last 31 years. It really didn't faze me. I was 10 minutes away from my home. I had key people in the shop that was doing great work for us. It was a good team effort. Took good care of our employees. The benefits were great. So we would have just kept plugging away.
Okay. And how about your personal plan for after you sell the company? Did you have a plan for that? Like, I know you consulted for a year, if I recall correctly.
Yep.
So how about beyond that? What was
I had absolutely no idea.
No idea.
I'm very fortunate that the relationship being on the board for RIMA acted as my great transition. When they offered me the position to take on the executive director, as I noted, I got up, went to the men's room, came back, and I was now the executive director. It was a great transition for me. It keeps me in the manufacturing world. I can come and go as I please. I set up my own schedule. I help a lot of people, and I get a lot of satisfaction out of that. Did I envision that? No, I did not. I had no clue what I was going to do. But I do know that after the 1 year was up and I started, I knew that I could not just do nothing. I was going to either go buy another company, do something else. I had to keep busy. It's been great. I mean, I've met so many new people and helped a lot of people. At least I believe we did, and it's been great. This is a great transition for me.
Yeah, so what do you see as some of the great opportunities in Rhode Island for Rhode Island manufacturing, and some of the challenges ahead of?
Well, I think we established manufacturing as being a key point of the economic growth in Rhode Island. Speaker of the House said to me point blank, if we don't have a strong manufacturing sector, we're not going to have a strong economy. You can't run a state on tourism. It's great, it's nice to say we got beautiful beaches, but if you're looking for growth and have our economy be strong, it starts with manufacturing. Now, for every job a manufacturer hires, there's 2 ancillary jobs held. So we're still seeing that growth. We're not going to be where we were 10, 15, 20 years ago because we're more advanced. It's more advanced machining, technology, and requires a better education.
So you're putting a lot of the belts and suspenders on there to help it be sustainable in the future.
And we're just keeping people focused. We're offering from the Rhode Island Manufacturers Association. We do 3 workshops a year. We acknowledge in January our annual awards dinner those companies who have helped sustain the growth of manufacturing in Rhode Island. We have an annual meeting where we have almost 500 people to attend. We just started a golf outing. That was a very successful event. We do a congressional summit with our congressional delegation, all on manufacturing. Overall, it's been phenomenal. It really has been, and it's been fun.
Yeah, it sounds like a good post work life
yeah,
career for you.
It's kept me busy. I have a lot of CPA firms that I have to deal with, but but it's a lot of fun. It really is. It is.
Will you try to have a lot of fun?
Yeah, I was at your recent event, and I thought it was well done. It was fun. We hooked up with a few people that I hadn't seen in a while, so it was great.
Yeah, good. I'm glad to hear.
Actually, the person I hook up with was I used to, in the previous life, before I started Swiss Line, I owned 2 retail liquor stores. And the person who was my bookkeeper works here at Blum Shapiro.
Oh, wow.
So I hadn't seen her in a while, so it was kind of neat at your event to hook up with her.
Yeah, that's good. And you've had a pretty diverse career then. So you went from retail liquor into manufacturing.
Well, I was in manufacturing since the age of 16. My father's had his own manufacturing company. He made all the component parts for AT Cross pens.
Oh, okay.
So I was there with him, and I was running machines, learning them. And then when I was in college, he was very generous that when I came home for the summer that I would work the 3rd shift. So I ran the machines on the 3rd shift for him. And I got into it. I enjoyed it. I liked making things. I was actually going to go to law school. And that didn't work out because I just fell in love with manufacturing. Yeah. It's in my blood. I get excited when I walk into a machine shop and I can smell the oil.
So you had mentioned that you had multiple offers over a period of years. What was it about those offers that you weighed? Were there things that you were willing to say no to or walk away from?
One, I wanted to make sure that my family was going to be protected. And I'll be honest with you, my employees were part of my family. I knew all their stories. I knew all their headaches. They came into my office all the time. And I was not going to sell that company without some form of assurance is that that company was staying put. I just couldn't do that to my people. They were part of what made my growth, and I just couldn't take that away. So they wanted an East Coast president. It's a company that bought me out, and they loved what we did. They loved the workforce that we had. Some of the offers I got were foreign, and I couldn't do it. I'm staying in America. I like America, and we had some headaches, but we are still a great country, and I couldn't sell to a foreign organization. Yeah. And some of the other ones, they come in, they lowball you. They want to steal the company from you. But I think the critical part is to put your company in a position where you don't have to sell. Then when you're in that position, then you can call your own shots.
Yeah, it's great to have that ability to weigh those offers, know what's important to you, what's going to leave you in a good position, but your family, and not just your immediate family, but your employees that have worked with you and for you for such a long time.
I was fortunate to have probably of the 65, I would say I had at least 20 with over 20 years of experience working for me.
That's Great
And
stuff.
that's means a lot to me.
Yeah. So that's great advice. Put yourself in a position so you're comfortable saying no, and
Yeah.
walking away from a deal.
Yeah, it makes it a lot easier.
And now hindsight, anything you would have changed in the process? What advice would you give to someone who sits in the valuation seat and then Bloom Shapiro as a CPA firm going forward to help make the process smoother? If you could speak to that.
I would say you need to have a continuous dialogue. It's important in my mind, first and foremost, you're a CPA firm, but then your banker and then your attorney. They should be in the loop as far as where you're thinking, where the company's going. Do it once a year even, just to toss out some ideas and what your thoughts are. And you never know. I've seen so many things happen that you're talking to somebody and 6 months later the person's no longer living.
Yeah.
So you need to be prepared. And I think that's the most important advice I could say is don't take it for granted. You just can't suck the place dry. You got to keep the business profitable. And at some point in time, you really need to think about that EBITDA number. If you really want to get out of it, or if you have another kind of plan where you want to turn it over to your family, and that can run into issues if you have more than one sibling. So you've got to be careful on how you're going to approach this and how you're going to do it.
Yeah, so you have to let the right hand let the left hand know what it's doing.
I think that's probably one of the best things I did was have the great relationship that I had with my CPA. So I would advise that to anybody who's going to get to that point in your life where they say, I've had enough.
Well, great, Dave. Well, thanks for sharing your story with us and talking through your succession plan. And best of luck to you and your future endeavors with RIMA. And look forward to talking to you again soon.
Very good. Thank you.
Thanks.